Good morning, Park Baptist Church. It is Wednesday morning, and the sun's coming out. Beautiful morning here. And tomorrow, the church celebrates what we call Maundy Thursday. The word Maundy in Latin means mandate, and it is the time where Jesus met with his disciples for the last Passover meal, and he mandated them to continue to do this in remembrance of him. It's also the evening where Jesus went to the Garden of Gethsemane and he prayed. And one of our favorite songs in the church is In the Garden. So I'm going to sing this to you now, and excuse my voice, but just hope that you may want to get your hymnal or sing along if you know the verses. I'll sing it, and you can sing along with me at home or wherever you are. And this is In the Garden. It's one of our favorites. I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses. And the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I'd stay in the garden with him, though the night around me be falling. But he bids me go through the voice of woe. His voice to me is calling, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. Now, I hope you enjoyed that terrible rendition. My voice all crackly and all that. Maybe you even knew a harmony part. You could sing along with me on that. Some of you have great voices out there, and I hope you guys were able to sing along with me. For our reading today, I chose the passage of the Last Supper from the book of Luke, Luke 22, number 7. Then came the day of the unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and make preparations for us to eat the Passover." "Where do you want us to prepare it for?" they asked. He replied, "As you enter the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him to the house that he enters, and say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large room upstairs, all furnished. Make preparations there." They left and found things just as Jesus had told them. So they prepared the Passover. When the hour came, Jesus and his apostles reclined at the table. And he said to them, "I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I would tell you, I will not eat it again until it finds fulfillment in the kingdom of God." After taking the cup, he gave thanks and said, "Take this and divide it among you. For this I tell you, I will not drink again from the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes." He took the bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you, and for the hand of him who is going to betray me is with mine on the table. The Son of Man will go as it has been decreed, but woe to the man who betrays him." They began to question among themselves which of one of us it might be. So we see that the night Jesus was going to, before he was going to go to the cross on that Thursday, he wanted to meet with his disciples. Now, Passover was a special time the life of the Jews. In fact, it's still a special time of celebration of the Jews. Not celebration in that it was a negative, it was a celebration that was a positive, where for us as the church, it brings the intensity of the pain that Jesus would go through. As you know from the book of Exodus, Passover was the time where the Egyptians were trying to control the Israelites. God had already asked Moses to lead them into the land of Canaan, and Pharaoh was resistant to let him go, and God set a series of plagues. The last plague, which was the final draw, was that the firstborn male of the Egyptians would be killed. And as the death angel came, God told the Israelites to get some blood, put it on the doorpost, and the death angel would pass over, thus the name, the Passover, and the Jewish boys and the children would be spared. And from that time on, the Jews were to celebrate that. Combined with that is the celebration of unleavened bread. That's why when we take communion, our bread's a little different, because when the Jews were in a hurry to leave Egypt, to run away, to get out of town, so to speak, they couldn't put any yeast in the bread. So when we take communion, we eat the unleavened bread. So on this Passover, Jesus was gathering with his disciples. It's the last Passover he would have with them. And it was, again, a time of sadness. They didn't fully understand the dynamic of the sadness that Jesus did. He did. And I think more than just that he was going to say goodbye to the disciples and the folks that he'd come to love, I think that there was a sense of the idea in his heart that the disciples would deny him, and one particularly would betray him, and that's Judas, who Satan gained control of. And I thought about Jesus and why the sadness would be there. And when you've worked and loved somebody, a group, and John tells us that he prayed for his disciples, he loved them, he took care of them, and now when he really needs them, they're going to abandon him and run away. And yet it matters not to Jesus. He knew that would come about, just like times in our life where we betray him and we deny him. He knows we're going to do that, and he loves us in spite of that. So Maundy Thursday, the mandate we have, that we actually continue in the Baptist church the first Sunday of every month. Now, unfortunately, this past month we haven't been able to do that. So maybe when you're home, you want to sit down with your loved ones, and you want to just get some great drink and some bread and gather together and read the words of consecration and take communion together. That I know you're uncomfortable maybe as a lay person doing that, but originally the disciples were lay people. And maybe you want to sit down and simply have communion together. The body that was broken, the blood that was shed. Talk about that. And also another dynamic you may want to enter into this Maundy Thursday. In the book of John, we're seeing that Jesus went out after supper and he began to wash the disciples' feet. And this was an ultimate act of service. And coupled with this mandate to have the meal remembering Jesus Christ is also the idea, that great idea of becoming a servant to others. And the kingdom that Jesus established was not a kingdom where we were going to be served. It's a kingdom where we're to go out and serve other people. And as we go through this experience of the virus during this Easter time, this would be a great opportunity to go out and extend service to other folks the best way you can, being safe. Also, it would be nice if you sit down with your family and you have a little communion time together. Perhaps talk about how you serve one another and what family really means, and how it's nice just to have a group of people gather safely, again, folks you're quarantined with, but talk about how you serve one another and how you appreciate one another and how you really need one another and how you love one another. Again, exciting times in the life of the disciples, in that Jesus was going to pass away, but also the resurrection was coming. Take this opportunity to share the love and message of the redemption of Jesus Christ.